Hello, and welcome to the Chief Architect Remodeling demonstration. My name is Kayla, and I will be presenting for you today. So today we're going to go through an entire remodeling plan together, and I'm going to show you some of the tools that we have that can assist you with that remodeling project. So to begin with, what we're going to do is we're going to create an as-built mask. We're going to take a look at some of our layers and some of the ways that those can assist you and make the remodeling project a little bit easier. We'll go through some dimensioning options as well. We'll create some elevations, work with roofs and framing. We'll finish up the project by taking a look at our schedules and our materials list and how we can segment things out. And finally, we'll send everything to create a plan set, similar to what you see on this screen right now. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So the first thing we're going to want to do when we do a remodel project is, of course, to get an accurate as-built, or a model of the home as it is now. Chief Architect has a great tool for assisting with getting an as-built quickly and easily with our Room Planner application. This can be used on either an Apple or an Android device. It's a very simple program to place walls, windows, and doors, to get accurate measurements, which you can do with the assistance of a Bluetooth measuring device, as it will integrate with the application. And then you can import the plan into Chief Architect to continue fleshing out the design. So here you can see we've recreated the as-built that we're going to go ahead and work with. So then within Chief Architect, you can import that in and you'll have all the measurements, walls, windows, and doors in place for you. And then what I've done to this plan is I've added a roof and a foundation to finish out the design. So if we take a look at our full overview, you can see the plan as we have it in its current state. So now we're ready to start working on our remodel. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an as-built mask. That is, a 2D CAD mask of the walls, windows, and doors in their current position. That way, when I start to change out walls, I can see where the existing ones are, and the mask can act as a static set of the demolition walls. Now, when we create the CAD mask, I want to make sure that I have all the layers turned off that are not important to me in my demolition plan. So I'm going to bring it down to just the walls, windows, and doors. Depending upon your project or needs, you may also want to have plumbing fixtures or maybe cabinets turned on. I'm not concerned about those, so I'm going to leave them out of this view. But I also want to make sure that my wall layers are turned off because I want to just have very simple lines. I'm going to select one of my walls, and I'm going to come down to my Edit toolbar where I can open up the Object Layer Properties, and I can turn off the layers that I don't want to see. So I'm just going to deselect Walls, Layers, select OK. So now they're just simple black and white lines. And then I'm also going to turn off my living area. I don't need that. So I'm going to just turn off room labels, which that's the only room label we have right now. So once it's ready, I'm going to come up to my CAD menu and come down to CAD Detail from View. So what that's going to do, it looks like nothing has changed, but when I select on a wall, I'm actually selecting on a CAD line. So it's broken down my plan into a bunch of individual CAD lines. This particular view doesn't have any 3D data, but as you can see, I still have my first floor over here. So if we go back over to this tab, here I have all of my walls, doors, everything is maintained in that 3D view. This is just creating a completely separate view for our CAD mask. So now I'm going to group select all of these. I'm just going to draw a marquee across all of these lines. I'm going to open them up, and I'm going to go ahead and change their color over to this charcoal color. I'm going to change the line style to a dashed line style, and I'm going to change the weight to 1. Then I'm going to define the layer. I have a layer called CAD, as-built mask. So I'll select that one. I'm going to make sure that all of the properties match. So line weight of 1, charcoal gray, and line style. We'll do a dashed. So then I'll select OK. Select OK again. And you can see it's dropped it down to dashed lines for me. Now I'm going to block them all together by marking over them, and I have this Make CAD block. So it's going to block them together as one object. So now if I were to move it around, they would move as one. And then I'm going to copy this mask. I'm just going to select it, come down to my toolbar and mark Copy Paste. And I'm going to come back to my first floor, go up to my Edit option, come down to Paste, Paste, Hold Position. What that's going to do is going to paste those CAD lines in exactly the same position as I copied them. This is a really handy, efficient tool to be able to, for instance, move something from one floor to another, or to paste something in the same place as I just did. Now I want to send that CAD mask to the very back layer, because right now you can see those dashed lines are showing on top of my wall. So I'll select the CAD mask, and then in my Edit toolbar, I have the option to change the drawing order. So this gives me a submenu where I can then just send it to the very back. This means that all other items are going to sit on top of it, so that only when nothing else is in the way will you see that CAD mask. This puts me in a great position where if I'm going to be moving walls, which I'm going to do here shortly, anytime I delete something, you can see my CAD mask shows where the walls were before. This is just a really handy way to kind of create a snapshot of the home as it is. So I'm going to undo that. So right now we're still in our as-built plan. I want to move over into my remodeling plan. I'm going to exit out of this detail, and I'm going to go up to File, Save As. What a Save As will do is it allows me to create a copy of the plan. So I'm going to maintain the as-built plan exactly as it is right now, and then I'm going to create a new plan, and I'm going to call it Remodel. And hit Save. So now you can see we're working within the remodel plan, which means that our as-built plan stays exactly as it is right now, and any changes that I make are not going to affect that as-built plan. We're going to want to be able to use that as-built plan later so that we can send views of it to our layout page. Now, Chief Architect has the ability to quickly and easily create new layers and also sets of layers so you can change views efficiently. The layer that an item is on also controls a lot of settings, and one of the most important is that you can take sets of items out of the material list. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take all of the windows in my plan and place them on their own layer, called Windows Existing, and make sure that they won't show up in my material list or my window schedule, so that I'm not pricing or ordering windows I don't need. So to group select all of my windows, I'm going to select the Window tool, and I can easily grab just windows by holding down my Shift key while I marquee over the plan. And because I have the Window tool selected, it selected all 8 windows but nothing else. So I can open up those windows all together, and the only thing I'm going to change is I'm going to come down to the Layer panel and move them over to Windows, Existing. I will also have a layer called Windows New, and that's what my new windows are going to go on. Now if I click on Define, I can see some of the properties of that layer. So for this particular layer set, which right now we're in our working plan view set, I can turn off the view of windows, but I want them to show up in this view, so I'm not going to do that. I can change the color or the line style or the line weight, and I can make sure that it's not showing up in my material list. So if I were to click right here, that means it's going to calculate in my material list. If I click again, now it will not show up in my material list. So I'll select OK, and then I'll select OK again, and all of those windows have been moved onto the new layer. Now I've already done that for both my door and my walls so that each of them are on their own existing layer as well. Now before I start making changes to this plan, I want to change my defaults. Defaults tell the tools within Chief Architect how they're going to act. And defaults are a time-saving measure. If I set up my defaults ahead of time, then I don't have as many changes to make down the line. So the first default I'm going to change is what layer new windows and doors will be placed on. I'm going to go into Edit and Default Settings, which is going to open up a full list of defaults. I also can double-click on a tool. So for instance, my windows, if I double-click on that, it's going to open up my window defaults. So I can come down to the Layer panel and move over to Windows New. Select OK, and I'll do the same thing for doors. Double-click on my door, and I'm going to want to do that for all of my door options. You can see I have interior, exterior, doorway, anything I'm going to use. I'll select Edit, come down to Layer, and change over to Doors New. I'll select OK, and I've already done so for all of the rest of the doors. So then I'll click on Done. Now with walls, it's going to be a little different. So I'm going to double click on the wall tool, which is going to open up all of the walls that we have available. I'm going to open up the exterior wall, and right now our default wall type is this siding-6, meaning anytime that I use the exterior wall tool, it's going to draw this wall type. I'm going to select Define, and I'm going to switch over to Siding 6 New. This is going to change the fill style of my wall so that it will look different than my existing walls, and also I have a different texture that I'll be using. So I'll select OK, and then I also want to make sure that it's going to go on the Walls, New layer. Select OK again, and I'll do the same thing for my interior wall. Come down to Wall Types and make sure that it's using the Interior for New, and then make sure it's on the Walls New layer. Select OK, and then Done. Now I'm going to switch over to a new layer set that I've created called Demolition Set. So this is going to have the layers of my walls turned on. I also want to adjust the existing wall type. So I'm going to select all of my exterior walls together. I'm just doing this by holding down the Control key and selecting each one. Then I'll open them up. Under Wall Types, I actually have one called Siding 6 Existing that has the exact same material that I was using for my Siding 6, but the fill style is going to be an angle hatch. That will allow me to more easily distinguish between existing and new walls, even if I'm printing in black and white. And I'm going to do the same thing for my interior walls as well. I have a wall type specifically created so that I can distinguish between new and existing. Open up all those interior walls, and under Wall Type, I'm going to go to Interior for Existing. So now I'm in a state where I'm ready to make some changes to this plan and begin working on the remodel. So now I'm going to begin adding and removing walls. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this wall. And I know I'm going to want to add a beam in later so that I can have some more support for that area. Then I'm going to draw a new wall coming off of the closet wall. I'm going to make sure that it's centered by selecting it and centering it right with that wall. And so when I draw new walls or add new doors or windows, you can see that it's going to draw them in the new style that I've set up in my defaults. And I can use some of my dimensioning tools to more accurately dimension the space. So Chief Architect has some automatic dimensioning tools which are great for when you're done with the design, but I typically like to work with my manual dimensioning tools so that I can dimension something as I'm working. So I'm going to use my end-to-end dimensioning, which means it's going to pick up from one end to another of an object, in this case within a room. And if I double-click on the tool, I can open up my dimension defaults and tell my dimensioning tool how I want it to dimension. So first of all, right now when I draw a dimension, I want to make sure that it's going on the right layer. So I'm going to have it draw on the Dimensions, Demo layer, which is going to show up in my demolition set. Then I'm going to tell it what types of objects I want it to locate. Right now, I'm only concerned with walls, and I want wall surfaces to show up, and both wall sides. Select OK, and now I'm going to draw across this room. So right now, this is 16 feet 4 inches. I'm going to select all of the walls that I want to move, click on the dimension, and in this case I want it to be 20 feet. So then I'll hit enter, and my dimension will adjust. Now I'm just going to go ahead and move this dimension over, and I'm going to re-snap it down to this wall. So this I want to be 22 feet, and I'll hit enter. So I'm going to go ahead and hit pause, and I'm going to continue drawing out the rest of my walls. So here I have all of my new walls drawn in. Now I want to create a wall legend that I can use for my construction documents. To do that, I'm going to open up a CAD detail page. So first off, I'm going to go over to a blank area of my plan, and I'm going to draw out a wall. Then I'm going to copy this wall 5 times, and I'm going to do this using my multiple copy tool. And I'm going to evenly distribute my copies. So I want to have 5 copies or 6 walls in total, because that's the number of walls that I have, wall types that I have in my plan. I'll select OK, and I'm just going to make 5 copies evenly distributed. Then I'm going to open up each wall in turn and change it to another wall type. So I have siding 6 new. I also want to make sure I have my siding 6 existing. I want my interior 4 new and my interior 4 existing. I want my stone 6 because I have a stone wall in my plan, a new stone wall in my plan. I didn't have stone in my existing one. And then I want my plumbing wall, or my interior 6 new. Okay, so once I have all the walls in my plan drawn, I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier. I'm going to come up to my CAD menu and go CAD Detail from View. So this turned all of those walls into CAD lines, and I can go back to my first floor and just delete those walls. And now in this detail I can add in some text, call it existing siding 6, and then name all of the rest as well, and it will be ready for me later. When I exit out of here, I can find it again in my project browser. Project Browser is a very handy tool for us to be able to see and access everything that we have in this plan. So if I open up my CAD details, you can see I have my wall legend, and it's saved in the plan so that I can access it later. I also have any saved camera views, cross sections, and all the floor levels, which currently we have just one. I'm going to close my project browser for now and close my wall legend and get back to my plan. So now I need to add in my new doors and windows. I'm going to delete this dimension, and I'm going to come up to my doors, and I'll start with my garage door, place it, and then resize it. I'm going to open this up and change it to a garage first. That way it knows to put an exterior door. And I'm going to place a doorway here and here. I'm going to delete the front door and place a new one, which is going to be larger. Now you can see all of these doors that I've placed are automatically on our doors new layer. So I'm going to pause for a second and just place all the rest of my doors. And I also went ahead and placed my windows as well. Now the last thing I want to do for this demolition plan is to place some text indicating what in the plan needs to be demolished. So I'm first going to double click on my text tool, open up my rich text, and make sure that any text that I'm drawing is going to go on the text demo layer. I can also make some changes to the color, to the size, or anything else that I want to change. But I'll select OK, select Done, and then I'm going to go ahead and draw out a leader line and type in Remove Wall. And I can do that for every door, window, and wall in the plan that's been removed. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and place all the rest of my text. Alright, so now that our text has all been placed, I'm ready to move on to my remodel plan. So we're going to switch over to the plan view set, which is what we're going to do the next phase of our remodel project on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw out some stairs, because we're going to create a second floor. So I'm going to go to my stair tool, and I'm simply going to click and drag to draw up to where the landing's going to go, and then click and drag to create the second set of stairs, and then click in between them. Now I'm going to want to do some adjustment, but first I want to double click to open this up, and it tells me that currently I have 16 risers, but I really need 17 in order to have a staircase that meets code. So I'm just going to pull out this staircase until I create one more tread. Then I'm going to adjust this landing, adjust my staircase width, and adjust this width to fit within that wall section. And that'll finish off our stairs. But if we go up to the second floor, it's going to take us up to the attic because we don't currently have a second floor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Build, Floor, Build New Floor. And I have two options. I can derive the second floor from the first floor plan, which is going to place walls in exactly the same position on the second floor as they are on the first. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new blank plan. So it's just going to take me up to the second floor, but it's not going to have any walls pre-placed except for our attic walls. Then I'll select OK, and it'll allow me to create different defaults for my second floor versus the first floor. So if I have, for instance, carpet on the second floor, I can change it so that the second floor will by default have carpet in it. I can change the molding style, the materials that I'm using, and I also can adjust my ceiling height, which by default is going to be an 8-foot ceiling. So I'll select OK, and again it's just going to take me up to my second floor, and I'm going to have a blank area to then draw my second floor walls on. Now, I'm going to turn on my reference display, just this option right here, which allows me to see the walls on my first floor. And I'm going to use them as a reference to then draw my second floor walls. This allows me to very quickly draw out these walls. So I'm just going to click and drag across all of my new wall segments. And once we're done, it'll tell me what my new living area is. Now any of my walls that are not properly aligned, I can select the wall, and in this case I'm going to center it with this wall because I know that those two need to be aligned. Or this particular wall, I want it to be aligned with this wall down here, so I'm going to drag it out just a little bit further and use that wall as a reference. As soon as they overlap, I get this option to align with wall below. So with one click it will align and I can pull it back. So there are a lot of ways to use those first floor walls to efficiently place my second floor ones so that I don't have to redo work. So now I'm just going to drop in a few windows. Alright, and finally I'm going to draw out the railings that are going to make the stairwell. So I'm going to draw out a railing right across the top of that first floor wall, and then I'm going to draw an interior wall, and I'm going to align it with the first floor interior wall below it. Now I can grab this room where the stairs are, open it up, and change it to an open below. What this does is it's going to cut a hole in the floor to create a stairwell. And now I'm going to turn off my reference display and finish drawing the walls on my second floor. So I'm going to pause to finish that up. Okay, so now that all of our walls are drawn on both our first and second floor, I want to take a look at our roof. So I'm going to switch over to the roof plan set so we can see what's going on there. Now I have had automatic roofs turned on, which means if I get into our build roof dialog, I have auto rebuild roof checked. So every time I've made a change to my walls or added a room, or in this case added a second floor, it's adjusted my roof to compensate, and it's kept up with an 8 and 12 pitch. So if we take a look at our view in 3D, this is what our roof looks like so far. Now depending upon the remodeling project, you may or may not want to use automatic roofs. It so happens that in this plan it's maintained my existing roof structure. So this roof plane, this one, the front section, and then this little section over here, that's all of the existing roof, and that hasn't been modified as I've gone along. What has been added is my addition and then my second floor. So now I'm going to continue using my automatic functions to very quickly adjust this roof. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tile these views vertically so that I can see what's going on in my 3D view as I make adjustments in 2D. I find it easiest to work in my 2D view while I'm adjusting my roofs, but I want to be able to see what's going on. So the first thing I'm going to do is there's several walls that I'm going to change to gable walls. The way automatic roofs function is that you use the wall to tell the roof plane above it how it's going to build. So if you're going to be adjusting the pitch, you do so from the wall to tell the roof plane bearing on it how it's going to adjust. So I'm going to select these two walls. I'm going to select them both at once by holding down my control key. And there's a couple of different ways we can change these to gables. The first is a handy shortcut we have down here in our edit toolbar, where with one click I can just change it to a gable wall. The second way, and I'm going to do so with the front wall, is to actually open the wall up, and when we come down to the roof panel, we have some additional options. So the very first one is a full gable wall. So with one click, I can change that over to a gable. And as you can see down in my Edit toolbar, the Change to Gable Wall tool has changed over to a Change to Hip Wall, meaning that it already is a gable. Now I want to adjust the pitch on this upper section of my roof. So I'm going to select the 3 walls that I want to adjust the pitch, open them all up together, and come down to the roof panel. And instead of an 8 and 12, I'm going to drop it down to a 6 and 12. Hit Tab so I can see the change applied, and then I'll select OK. And there we can see the 6 and 12 pitch. So now there's just one more automatic adjustment I'm going to make. I'm going to come down to the first floor, and I'm going to select the garage wall and change it to a gable. So now I have the continuous gable lines running across my house. Now this front section, what I actually want to do is I would like to have the roof plane from the garage simply extend down across this bay window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click to select all 3 roof planes above that section and simply delete them. Now when I do, it's going to ask me, do you want to move out of auto rebuild roofs? And because I've made all the automatic changes I intend to make, I'm going to select yes. So that's going to delete those roof planes, and now I can adjust all of my roof planes manually. So when I select on a roof plane, I can use the edit handles to simply maneuver them around. And then I'm going to take this front section and I'm just going to pull it out a little further beyond that front wall. And with that, we finish off our roof. Alright, so while we're in this 3D view, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double click on that tab to expand the 3D view so it's my main view now. So I want to do some adjustment to my materials here. The first thing I'm going to do is down on my first floor, I want to have the siding color match the second floor and the addition. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to paint it by using my Adjust Material definition, click on that siding, and I'm going to come down to my texture panel, and right now it's this dark gray color. I'm going to choose a lighter gray, select OK, and it should adjust to be pretty much the same as our material up above. Now because these walls are selected to not appear in my material list, that's not going to affect my material list for the siding at all. And now I want to do something similar to match the color of my existing window with all of my new windows. So I'm going to use my material eyedropper, which allows me to grab a material in the plan. So I'm going to grab this black color, and I'm going to paste it onto the component of this window. And then I'm going to grab the white color that's on the outside edge of that window and paste it onto the window as well. So now that's still an existing window, but its paint colors match the new windows that I've placed. And I can see that this window I need to expand, so I want it to have a slightly different look than it does right now. So I'm just going to reduce the size of it, open it up, and under my window type I'm going to change it to a fixed glass, and I'm going to add a couple of window panes. So I'm going to add a couple of vertical lights and change the muntin width to 3 inches. Hit Tab so I can see the applied change before I select OK. So there are 2 more changes I'm going to make before we move on to some of our framing options. The first is I want to have stone that extends all the way up in this front section. So I'm going to come back to my first floor, and I'm going to select this wall, and I only want to select part of this front wall because I want it to extend out to where the edge of the wall is. So I'm going to first break this wall into 2 pieces. I'm going to use my break wall tool. I'm going to come right where this connection is, click to create the break, and I'm going to hold down my control key to select both of these walls at once, open them up, and under wall types I have a stone 6 new option. Select OK. Then I'm going to copy these walls go up a floor, and I'm going to use a tool that we used earlier under the Edit menu. Go to Paste, Paste Hold Position, and it will paste those walls in exactly the same position on the second floor. Now I want to extend that stone out to this adjoining wall, so I'm going to select that front wall, and another efficiency tool I have is the Use Same Wall Type handle. So that's this little diamond edit handle on the side, so I can use that to simply grab it and pull it out. Then I'm going to use my edit handle to align it with the wall below so that my framing layers line up. So if I come back to my full overview, you can see the stone that now extends down. And now I'm going to need to make a couple of adjustments to my foundation level, both because we don't have a foundation under the garage area, and also because I'm going to need to add a brick ledge to the section that now needs to hold up stone. So I'm going to go back to my floor plan and go down to my foundation level. So the first thing I'm going to do on my foundation is I'm going to turn on my reference display, so again I can see what's going on the floor above. Now I'm going to select my foundation wall, and first I'm going to double click on it to make sure that it's going to be a new concrete stem wall. And since I don't have one already, I'm going to select to define, copy my existing stem wall type, and change it to say new instead of copy. Then I'm going to change the fill style so it looks a little different. So maybe we make it a different color. Maybe instead of this gray we do black. And then maybe we decrease the spacing so it's a little bit more condensed concrete fill style. Just enough that we can see the difference. So we'll select OK on that. Again, this is adjusting the default, so this means that any new wall that I draw is going to show this new style. So now I can use those walls to click and drag out. And we're in our roof plan set, which is why I can't see the fill style. So let's switch over to the plan view set. So there it's pretty clear to see the difference between the existing and the new. Okay, so the final change I'm going to make is I just want to extend a section of this existing foundation wall. So I'm going to break it right where it meets up with the wall above it, and then this segment I'm just going to pull down and then extend out so that it's now thick enough to adjust for the brick ledge above. If we open up this wall, let's simply select it to open it, you can see it now has that ledge for the brick to sit on. Now I want some kind of visual indicator showing that this section of foundation, and at this point let's turn off our reference display, so this section of foundation is new versus the rest of the foundation walls. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to use my CAD tools. I'm going to create a polyline object right where that brick ledge is. I'll open it up and I'll change the fill style. So I have a concrete fill style, black, and the spacing was 9/16. Alright, so there it's going to match my new wall fill style. So visually we can see what's going to be added. And then I'll use my text tool. And yes, I do want that displayed. Doesn't look like I turned that on before. And I'm just going to point out new brick ledge. Select OK, and then I would add any other text I might need. And from here might be a great time to do a backlipped cross section. So we have our different elevation views, and one of them is a backlipped cross section. So if I take a clip right through this section here, I can not only see my stairs, but I also can see the new foundation area. And I might use my exact same indicator that I used on the floor plan. Open up this section, change its fill style to concrete with a 9/16 spacing so it matches my floor plan, and then use text there as well. And I can see visually in this cross section that I also need to adjust this door height. So I'm going to open up that door and let's change it to more like 72 inch high. Let's see what that looks like. That looks like it'll drop it down enough where we can just cut off that casing and we'll have enough room on the outside. So this cross-section not only gives us a good visual to be able to show a foundation view, but it also gives us a great visual for headroom and for anything that might not align with those stairs. So this is a view that I want to keep, so I'm going to save this cross-section. I'm going to come up to my architectural toolbar, select to save active camera, and then I'll just exit out of that cross-section. Now if I open up that project browser again, and not under CAD details this time, but under cross-sections, I have that cross-section saved and ready to use at any time. I can also right-click on it and rename it. So let's call it Stair Foundation Section. Okay, so now let's take a look at some of our framing options. So I'm going to exit out of this section. I'm going to go up to my first floor again, and let's move into a framing set. So there are a couple of different ways that we can go about framing for a remodel. The first would be to use our general framing options and go through and build all of the framing throughout the house, and then after the fact segment out our new framing versus our old framing. Now this can give us a really great visual, and I'm going to go ahead and pull over the final layout of this project so we can take a look. So what I've done here is I've framed out the entire roof, and I've split the roof into segments. So all of my existing roof is one color, and all of my new roof framing is a different color. I did the same thing to the 3D material, so that our material for the existing roof looks different in 3D versus the new roof material. And then I did the same thing for the rest of the floor framing and the wall framing. I chose not to divide them by color, but I segmented out where the new framing is versus the existing. And this can be really great to be able to then see the connections between floors and how we're going to frame into the existing framing. However, I'm going to do it a little differently today. I'm simply going to choose to frame out the sections that are relevant to our remodel. So I'm going to exit out of my project browser, and I'm going to select all of my new walls. And actually for right now, I'm going to get back into my plan view set. We'll come back to the framing set here in a moment. So I'm going to select any wall that's new. Simply hold down my control key to select them, which this is where having them segmented into different colors makes it really handy because I can visually see which walls I need to grab. Alright, so then once I have all of those walls selected, what I'm going to do is down in my Edit toolbar, I have Build Framing for Selected Objects. So I can click. I'm not going to display my framing on this view because remember I'm in my Plan View set. So I'm going to select No for all of my framing options. So in this Plan View set, nothing is going to change. But when I go back to my framing set, I'll see the walls framed out for my new walls, and I'll get into a 3D framing view here in just a moment. I'm going to go up to my second floor, and I'm going to select all of the walls on this floor because these are all new. And in this case, I don't need to have my plan view set turned on because I can see which walls are new, because they all are. Once they're all selected, I'll select Build Framing. Now if I get into a 3D framing overview, I can see just my new framing. And I'll do the same thing for my roof planes. So let's go back to the roof plan set. I'll select my roof planes that are new and click to build the framing. No, I don't want to show it in the roof plan set because I don't need to see the framing here. And I'll come down to my first floor, and in this case I'm going to actually need to divide this roof plane into two segments because half of this is a new roof plane and half of this is existing. So the way I'm going to go about this is I'm going to copy and paste it in place. So down here in my Edit toolbar I have Copy and Paste in Place. That means that I have two roof planes now in the exact same position. So I'm going to grab one and extend it out to this section. Grab that same roof plane, the copy of it rather, and pull it out to about here. Alright, so then I want to build the framing for just these two roof planes. Select Build Framing. No, again, I don't want to show it in this view, but when I get back to my framing overview, now I'll see all of the addition framing. So that gives us a good overview of the framing that we have in the plan, and it means that when we generate our material list, it's going to just calculate the framing for our addition. So any other wall that we want to replace the framing, we would also build the framing for. And then I'm going to go back to my floor plan view, and let's take a look at our framing set, because one thing I do want to add in here is I need a bearing beam. So I'm going to come up to my floor ceiling framing tools, and I'm going to select a floor ceiling beam and simply pull it out across my house. In my general framing tools, I have a post that I can drop in, and this will also allow me to more easily position that framing. And so then I would need a post on the other wall as well. Let's pull that down and adjust the framing. Then when we go back to our framing overview, you can see that beam across there. But if we take a look at our final plan, I actually have a steel I-beam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that beam, open it up, and I'm going to change the type to an I-joist, and the material, instead of fir framing, let's find a steel stud material. And obviously we're not going to be doing any on center, but it will at least give us the steel material. So if we zoom in, there's our I-beam. Alright, and with that we finish off our framing plan for our addition. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here. Also, I've chosen to stick frame the roof, but we do definitely have automatic truss options. I'll just show you how that works. So if I were to just click and drag a truss across and then rebuild the framing, it would adjust for the truss. And once I have that truss selected, down here in my Edit toolbar, I can open up that truss detail and see the truss that it's created. There are also some additional options when we build the roof to make sure that we have an energy heel if we are going to be truss framing the roof. But since I'm stick framing, I didn't do that. So now let's take a look at some of our material lists and schedule options. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new CAD detail page. So I'm going to come down to CAD Detail Management, and just create a new detail, and I'm going to call it Schedules. I'm going to throw all of my schedules onto a single CAD detail, which again is just a blank white page that gives us some additional drawing space. So from here, I'm going to come up to Tools and then down to Schedules, and let's drop in a window schedule. Yes, I'm going to turn on the display of that. So here we have all of the new windows in our plan, and if I click on any item in here and highlight it, I can then come down to my Edit toolbar and I can open the object. So I can see what that object looks like, and if I happened to not need it in my schedule, I can uncheck Include in Schedule. So if you happen to have some items that showed up that are not supposed to be included in the schedule, you can just deselect them very easily right from here. And then I'll do the same thing with my doors. So I'm going to come up to Tools and down to Schedules, and we'll drop in a door schedule. Select to place it, and again, any item that doesn't need to show up in your schedule, you can select it, open it up, and then if we didn't need that, we would just deselect Include in Schedule. We're adding a lot of doors to this plan though, so those are all included in our remodel. And with any schedule, you can select the schedule and open it up, and you can choose what items you want to display. So for instance, for our door and window, we have the header listed. If you don't want to see the header, then you can come down, select the column, and remove it. And then anytime you want to add something back in, you can select it and add it back in. And then, depending upon what you want to include in your door schedule, it looks like I don't have doorways selected. If I do want to show my doorways, I would simply click to drop those in as well. Maybe you don't want the garage door to show up, or you want to create a different schedule for interior doors versus exterior doors. You can drop in two different door schedules and select each of those. And now let's just take a brief look at our material list. So again, under Tools, we have our material list. I actually need to be in the plan view to be able to do this, so I'm going to go back to my plan view. We'll exit out of that schedule. It's saved in the project browser at this point. So Tools, material list, let's calculate for all floors. So here we have a full material list of everything, not everything that we've placed in the plan, but everything that we've asked to be calculated in the material list. Since we built just the addition framing, if we come down to our roofing, the rafters that we're seeing here, which we're getting a 2x10 linear count, if we want to switch over to a cut list or a buy list, you can do so with a single click. In this case, I don't need to have decks showing. Deck was a part of the original plan, so that would be a good thing to just exclude from the material list. Probably the easiest way for me to do this at this point would be to open up my display options for the material list, and I can turn off the deck layer, as it were. I'm going to disclude the category of decks. So that's just going to delete it. I don't need it at all because I'm not building any deck in my remodel. There's also a column for cost. You can add in a column for markup, and you can create your own master list or multiple master lists depending upon what you're needing to do so that you can input those sorts of items very quickly. Then this material list can be exported as a text file, CSV, to an Excel, and HTML, so you can use it with a variety of different formats, including Buildertrend. Now if there's ever an item in here that you're not sure what it is, so let's say you see this glass shower, we just don't know what's going on there, you don't know what that item is, you can select it, and down in your Edit toolbar we have a Find Object in Plan. That's going to highlight the item so that it's then open in your plan and you can find what's going on there. This becomes really handy, especially when you're working with a remodel, because if there's something on here that you're not entirely sure if it belongs in the material list, then if that glass shower, for instance, didn't belong, then you could open it up, change its layer so that it doesn't display in the material list, uncheck it from a schedule. There's a couple of different ways that you could go about that to make sure that your material list is as accurate as you need it to be. Okay, so now the final thing I'm going to do, I'm going to exit out of this material list. I'm not going to save it because I don't need it at this point. But we are going to go ahead and create our layout page. So I'm just going to come, if I come to File and then Open a Layout, I have a template available that I'm going to use. So I'll just double click to open that up. So this is a template that I've created that has my own title block. If you come down to page 0, anything that you place on this page will be available for all future pages. This particular layout is set up to print to 24 by 36, so a nice architectural D size. We have a number of templates that download with the program automatically, so you can use those from an 11 by 17, an 18 by 24, a couple of options in there. And then you can take those and rearrange the title block, or you can create your own like I've done. And a template can save some items as well, so I like to save a cross-section and a plan view text so that I can just easily copy those around as I create new items. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my plan view. I'm going to choose a couple of my layer sets. So let's go back to that demolition set that we worked on. Here has all of the text relevant to the demolition, that as-built that we created. And since I took the time to set up this layer set and it's all ready to go, I can just send this straight to my layout. So I'm going to send it to page 3, which is where I want my demo to go. And I want it at a 1/4 inch scale, which is what I've already set up my text as. I'll select OK, and then I can just move this view into place. Now I'll go back to my second page and I'm just going to copy this text and paste it right here. Then I can open up the text and change this to demolition plan. Now maybe I want to go back to my first floor, and let's go back to the plan view set. So this is going to have a different set of dimensions and text, and I'll send this to page 4. Select OK. Move that into place, and I'll do the same thing with the second floor. I'll send it to layout on page 4 as well. Move it straight into view. If there's anything I don't want to see on this particular view, I can just double click it, and then I don't want to see my attic walls. So then I'll just select the wall, use my object layer property to deselect the display of my attic walls. Then when I go back to my layout, because I've used that layer set, it turned off the attic walls in that view. It would not turn off the attic walls for any view that was referencing another layer set other than the plan view. We can also send 3D views to our layout. So I'm going to go back to this full overview that I have here. I'll rotate to get a good view of it. We have a number of different rendering techniques. So we've been using our standard render. We also have a vector view. It's going to be more like what we use for our elevations. We have a glass house where you can see through it. You have there's a duotone, a technical illustration, a painting and a watercolor, a line drawing. You can even do a watercolor with a line drawing on top, which is one of the technique options. So when you're in watercolor, there's an option to have a line drawing on top. And then we have a physically based render, which is a new rendering technique in X10. It's a more photorealistic, using the lights and the shadows and the material properties within the space. And so when you move from an exterior to an interior view, it's going to adjust the lighting. So that physically based render gives us a much more photorealistic view than our standard render. You can see the difference there. And then in addition to that, there's also a ray trace option, which is going to essentially take a snapshot of the view that you have. So for instance, this particular camera view, and it's going to take it and enhance it to create an even more photorealistic image. And so all of these views, if we go back outside, let's do a standard render. We can send this to our layout as well. So if we send to layout to page 1, and instead of doing a current screen, I'm going to do a current screen as image, which is essentially going to send it as a picture, which means that I can resize it. It's not going to be scaled in any way, and place it. Now Chief Architect has a lot of tools to easily finish out your construction documents. So if we open up our library, you can come down to both the core catalogs. We have some CAD blocks. So we have some kind of general notes and legends that you might need, including an electrical legend. There's some CAD details for foundations and roofs. And then we also have some available in our bonus catalogs. So these are available for download on our website. If you scroll down, there's some additional CAD details and some detail components. And there's a catalog of Simpson strong tie as well. So that's one of our manufacturer ones that is going to give you some additional details that you can use. So straight from that cross section we were using earlier, so if we open up the project browser and let's open up that cross section, this would be a great view to go to the library browser, find a particular, maybe a strong tie that you want to show a detail of, maybe some rebar or CAD details showing what's going on at the foundation level. Another tool to add in some detail from this particular view, if you were to come up to our CAD menu, we have an auto detail tool. So that's going to add in things like your concrete, which I'm going to want to pull this back because I already added a detail showing that it's a little bit different there. Your brick, your insulation, it'll add in different wall types. So this is going to reference the wall layer that you have set up, the wall type. And then if you wanted to, you could also turn on your layer for framing so you can see where the wall framing is coming together and the roof framing. So there's a lot of options to be able to really flush out this design. So we could then send this view to our layout as well. Send it to page 5 maybe. And instead of current screen as image, let's go current screen. 1/4 inch scale seems fine for what we're trying to send. And move it around, and I would probably use that text from my second page, copy it, and paste it right into place and rename it. So you can see some of the flexibility that we have to really quickly create these construction documents with our necessary details and add in some text. It's really malleable to be able to move things around. I can copy this from one page to another very easily. I can change the scale simply by selecting the image, and down here I can rescale it. Chief Architect is a program that gives you a lot of flexibility to both create defaults to save you time as you go, and also to make changes as you need to, because there's going to be changes that come along. Alright, so that pretty much finishes out our design. So now I just want to show you a few things on our website. So our website, chiefarchitect.com, we have quite a few resources to be able to help you out. Under our User Center, we have some training videos, so feel free to go and watch those. Those are free to watch at any time. There's also a great training series. There's a quick start that's going to give you a very quick start into the program. It's about 3 hours long, versus the introductory video series, which is essentially a much longer version that's going to go into some more detail. After that, you should have a very good grasp of how the program operates. This is also searchable, so you can use the search bar to type in something you want to learn more about. We also have a knowledge base, so this is going to have a number of really helpful articles that are going to walk you step by step through things. We have some additional training options that you can find here in the seminars section, and we have a samples gallery. So I've been using today, if we scroll down here a little bit, this Crown Point plan, which is a remodel. So we have a PDF of it. I've been showing you that as we've gone along. It has a full sample plan, so you can take a look at it. And then the plan itself is downloadable. If you want to download it, play around with it, feel free to take a look. There's also some additional sample images. There's some CAD options if you want to see some sample details, things that can be created in the program. And finally, under that User Center, we also have a professional forum, Chief Talk, where you can communicate with other professionals, find out how they're using the program, ask questions, show samples. It's a great place to connect. Under products, you can see the two products we offer, Premier and Interiors, and there is a comparison between the two. And if you're coming from an older version, we do have some upgrade options. I showed you some bonus catalogs today. Those can be under our User Center. We have catalog downloads, so that's where you can go and download any of those catalogs. So like I said, we have two professional products that we offer. We have the Premier version and Interiors. I've been working in our X10 Premier version today. The Premier has all of the functionality of the Interiors. The Interiors is just missing some of the framing options and landscaping, as the name suggests, as well as some of your roofing and structural components. Like I said, there's that comparison chart on the website. Feel free to call us if you have any questions on that. We'd be happy to discuss the difference between them as well. They not only can be purchased outright, but you can also rent them for $199 a month, and that will accumulate towards ownership. So that's a really easy way to get into the program and test out its full capability. We do also have a free trial available on our website. Feel free to go and download that. It's a full working version. You can work with the plans on our website as well, and all of those training videos are available for you to watch and learn while working in that trial. A new license does include a year of SSA, or Support and Software Assurance. So that's going to give you priority technical support, all of those catalogs available on our website. It also includes upgrades. So when we release new versions, you get those upgrades for free. And then discounts on additional licenses and some additional training options. Like I said, if you have any questions, please give us a call. Phil will be here for a few more minutes to answer any other questions you might want to ask here today. Otherwise, we'd be happy to hear from you. So thank you so much for attending, and have a wonderful day.